What is up, YouTube? My name is Alex. Welcome back to the Lifting Nomad. As you all know, when I travel, I like to do solo travel for the most part, but every now and then I like to do a little bit of a cheeky group travel. And one thing I've been doing over the last little bit is something called remote year, which is designed for digital nomads in most part. So in this video, I'm gonna give my review of what I think about remote year, the pros, the cons, should you try it, and all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright, so we are back in Toronto. I'm finally home after the Latin America rip. It was a really fun time starting from Argentina back in December to Uruguay to Peru to Colombia to Mexico. Did some really cool stuff, and I'm glad to be home, glad for those experiences. It was really exciting, and that kind of what segued me into talking about remote year. So basically how I like to travel is usually solo travel to different countries and go to new places and see new things and really be focused on obviously like fitness and food and nutrition, as well as like outdoors and meeting new people and exploring. But when it comes to moving to new cities, there's definitely some challenges that come with it, from loneliness to genuine fear to safety, to a lot of mental health issues that actually come up, from anxiety to depression to there's some dark things that happen when you're doing a lot of solo travel for an extended period of time, especially if you're someone who's not extroverted. I have the benefit of being someone who's extremely outgoing and can meet people, and my social battery doesn't really get expended too quickly. So it's pretty easy for me to go stay in a hostel, meet some people, go on a pub crawl, go on some dates or something like that, and get to know people in the city I'm in. But at the same time, it can get kind of exhausting always being the person to be outgoing and trying to organize things and trying to plan things and doing events, doing pub crawls, all this. Candidly, it can really get kind of exhausting. So for me, I like to have little travel breaks of doing either group travel with some friends, doing group travel with something like Kentucky or EF Ultimate Break, and that's kind of what led me into finding remote year. I was actually living in Colombia last year in January, February, and March with one of my good friends. We were in Medellin at that time, and I met a group of girls doing something called remote year. And at that time, I didn't know what it was. So meeting with them over a couple of beers, they really explained it to us what it was. And essentially, remote year is a program designed for digital nomads or remote workers who can go to a different country for a little bit longer of a time versus a vacation. So essentially, remote year originally obviously started with remote year being a 12-month program that was designed around 12 different cities in 12 different countries over a full year time frame. Then they slowly started adapting more towards shorter term travel, especially during COVID when remote work and digital nomads really just exploded. There became this massive surge for travel and trips, but not for a full year, because a lot of people, on time zone basis, if you're working synchronously in like Eastern time or Pacific time, really difficult to do that from like Japan or Bali or wherever you're going to be over there. So that was one of the main hurdles. As well, a lot of people aren't really comfortable about just like picking up everything, putting it in storage, and moving away for an extended period of time. I've been doing this for about a year and a half now, so for me it's kind of become second nature. But for a lot of people taking that first step, the first thing they want to do is maybe do a month. Right? A month outside of their home city, in a different country, working remote, trying it for them to see if it'll actually work out. And a month is pretty low stakes, because if something goes wrong, or let's say you get sick or you have to come home, you're first of all not gonna be out that much money or that much time, and you're gonna have still your life at home to return to. So for them, I think it caters to a lot of people who are home-based in a city, and then taking a month off to go do a remote work trip in one of these various places. So for me, I like to use it kind of as a break from being the extroverted leader trying to set everything up, and just have a nice change of pace where I have a group of people that I'm going to be guaranteed to meet up with. So the premise of remote year is pretty simple. Basically, you pay one set fee for either 1 month, 4 months, or 12 months, and you can pay as you go with like the 4 or 12 months. I met a few people on those sort of programs, and basically you pay it like rent once a month, you pay for the following month. And what's included in that is a couple of things. So accommodations, first of all, so your apartment is paid for wherever you're staying. I've stayed in a few different locations. For some background, I've done a remote year in Lisbon, Portugal. I did a remote year in Mexico City, Mexico. And then I just did my last one in Medellin, Colombia. So I've done 3 one-month programs at this point. So that includes your accommodation. I've had some various experiences with accommodations. When I was in Lisbon, we had 2 flats that we affectionately called the frat house. It was basically 14 bedrooms and 14 bathrooms that were separated by one balcony that joined 2 7-bedroom flats. So it was pretty chaotic. We had 2 kitchens, 1 living room and 1 balcony, and then 1 washer dryer for 14 people. So for that month, it was pretty mayhem, I'll be honest, in that place. I was actually very conveniently between jobs. I had just accepted a new role, so I was in Portugal just like vibing, living my best life. But in reality, if I was working, that would have been a pretty tough month because we had some issues with our program, and that wasn't necessarily the best first experience for a lot of people, I think, with remote year. I still had a blast, and it obviously prompted me to do it again. But at the same time, we definitely had some issues with the program. Our flat wasn't great. We had no air conditioning in the middle of summer in Lisbon. It was insanely hot, like pretty much you couldn't sleep. It was interesting. But at that time, I still had a great time, and those were the accommodations in that case. The other 2 times I've done it in Mexico City and then in Medellin, we had very modern apartments in like nice neighborhoods. I had a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom in Mexico City, and then I just did Medellin. I had a 2-bedroom, 4-bathroom. So 1 roommate, central area, much better accommodations. Even following remote year on Instagram, it looks like they've upgraded the flats from Lisbon's, because I would imagine a lot of people were complaining about that as well. The second thing that comes with the payment that you give to remote year is the co-working space. Now, remote year, if you're not familiar with it, is actually owned by the Selena Hostel brand. So those like really popular digital nomads, Selenas that are everywhere all over South America, and then like really starting to get their way into Europe as well. They own remote year, so they bought them a few years ago, and essentially sometimes you're going to be in the Selena workspace naturally because they already have the infrastructure set up for people to come in and work. They have the good internet, they have the swipe cards, all of that. It's really easy for them to accommodate the remotes as they're visiting. In Lisbon, we were at a rooftop called the LAX. I think it was the Community of Creators, Lisbon something, Community of Creators, something like that, which was down on the harbor front, and it was actually really beautiful. They had a rooftop restaurant. They had like this greenery space up on the roof. It was beautiful. It was pretty far from our accommodations, like a 20-minute walk. And again, I think this was pretty unique to Lisbon, as both times in Mexico and then Colombia, they were much closer in much better neighborhoods. I think the Lisbon one was, the first one I did was not very well organized. I'll just leave it at that. The third thing that's included with the actual fee you pay for remote year is there's always local experiences. So there's like a welcome or kickoff event and then a farewell event at the end of the month, and these can vary. So in Lisbon, we had a kickoff event at like this cocktail bar that was the owners are really good friends with the remote year people. They've been coming there for a long time, so we got like open bar, made some drinks, got a whole bunch of cocktails, and got to meet everyone. It was really fun. Then the farewell event, we had a sailboat around the Lisbon harbor, which was like, we bought a bunch of wine, we bought a bunch of beers, brought some music. It was a blast, and that was everyone from the program. So these programs have like 30 to 40 people a lot of times, which is great because you are going to be, guaranteed to have some friends or be able to meet some people that are, something in common with you on the trip, and kind of break up that monotony of doing solo travel. In Colombia, our welcome event was just at a brewery nearby in the neighborhood, and then our farewell event was the Shiva bus, so we had like a big party on the Shiva bus playing music and driving around Medellin and being really obnoxious. It was a really fun time. And then in Mexico City, our welcome event was this like mariachi show. So we got to go and sit like front row, and they had like 2 big tables set up for us. We got like tacos and like a free dinner included in that, a couple of drinks as well, which was awesome. Then we got to watch a mariachi show like live in center, which was pretty cool. And then the farewell event in Mexico City was like a Britney Spears themed birthday party at our community leader, so like the leader of the whole program who works for remote year. It was his birthday, so we had like a Britney Spears themed party, and it was a blast. It was at one of his friend's apartments on the rooftop, so we got to get drunk and dance and have a really good time and say farewell to everyone. So those experiences are really cool. And then there's also quite a lot of side trips and additional experiences that are a la carte, so you have to pay for them, but they're pretty cool. So for instance, in Mexico City, there was this Xochimilco boats, which like float up and down this river with kind of gondola style, with these dudes like pushing it with a big stick. We had like music going, drinks. There was like other boats coming up selling michelada and elotes, and a lot of really interesting stuff, and it was a blast. It was a nice hot sunny day, so we had a really good time there. We also got to do like the Piramides de Teotihuacan, which is like something really popular in Mexico City, where you go up in the hot air balloon and look out over the pyramids. It was a beautiful experience, and really glad to do that as well. In Lisbon, we had a few different ones. Most of them ended up getting canceled, so I'm not really too biased on how that went, but we got to go to a vineyard at the beginning, and then after that there really wasn't too many events that weren't honestly ran by me, which was kind of funny. And then in Colombia, we got to do, I did the weekend side trip in Santa Marta that's organized by Remote Year, so you have to pay quite a bit extra there to fly over to Santa Marta. You stay in a hotel. We went to El Rio Hostel, like in the jungle, which is one of the most famous hostels in Colombia or South America in general. So you get to do some pretty unique experiences. And then the actual leaders of the program itself are usually local to that city. So in Colombia, for instance, we had 2 Colombianas running the program, and then you have them as a resource. It's kind of nice to know that you know, even if you're new to a city, let's say, like I had never been to Mexico City before, I knew that there was 2 hosts guaranteed that speak Spanish, definitely better than I am. They're from there, and they're actually able to just like be a resource or someone to lean on if you ever did need anything. So I think, you know, even though I never necessarily capitalized on that, it was nice to know that they were there, and it gives you like peace of mind knowing that someone's kind of watching your back for the full time you're there. So who is like Remote Year best for? I would say it's kind of best for everyone, to be honest. It's the one con with it is it is a little bit expensive compared to just doing like an Airbnb or staying in like a Selena private or something like that. But the thing is, you're guaranteed to meet people, and then you also have just like a group chat of like 20, 30 people each time where you can set up like different lunches or dinners or going to grab drinks or going out, like out. And it just makes it a lot easier, I think, to coordinate things like that when you have a group that's always, you know, in the same time frame. They're all there for the same amount of time. A lot of people are living in the same apartments in the same neighborhoods. So it's kind of a nice way to make some friends and just break up the travel of always doing it on your own. I think for me, like I love solo travel. It's really where I grow the most and learn the most about myself, but at the same time it's really exhausting. So I like to have this break of doing Remote Year. Ideally, I think I want to do it maybe 1 to 3 times a year for a month at a time in different cities and different places around the world. That way I'm able to, you know, enjoy the best of being solo travel, but also being able to enjoy being in a group setting and seeing some new things, and while meeting some cool people as well. In terms of destinations, you know, I would say definitely go check out like their websites, just remoteyear.com. They have a ton of different places everywhere from South Africa to Japan to Albania to like to Colombia, to Lisbon, to Valencia, Spain, to Athens, Greece. Like they have a really good mix. I think they're just adding North American cities as well. Like I know Montreal, Canada has one, which is kind of funny. So I would say there's a very good mix of destinations, and if you're looking to try it out, I think it's pretty simple if you're on like the East Coast or West Coast of US or Canada to do one of the ones in South America. You know, the flights are fairly cheap, especially somewhere like Mexico City. Super close and accessible from most places. Relatively cheap flights. Go for a month, try it out. If you don't like it, you can always just come home and not do it again. You know, you're not going to be out on your ass just for taking a month and going to work remote if you are already working remote. So that's pretty much going to be my review of Remote Year. I've had a blast with them. I had a really good time over the last 3 months. Not 3 months in a row, but the 3 times I've done it. Looking forward to trying it again. Probably going to do Florianopolis in Brazil in December. But that's going to be my review of this. Hopefully this was useful. If it was, feel free to leave a like and a comment in the section below. Always helps the algorithm. But as always, my name's Alex. Welcome back to Living Nomad. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.